Welcome to the 29th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. Today we are going over the summer 2017 season's 11th week of shows. Just as a reminder though, we also always include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and podcast feed if you wish to only hear about one or two specific shows. Because, yeah, this is a straight up spoilers podcast, so you just gotta get used to it. But my name is Leo, and I finally finished Recreators, and Sota is now my favorite anime character of all time. Also with me is Bcom, and that is not true at all.
I was gonna say, for some reason, Leo, I don't believe that you came around on Sota. Also, I don't believe that you finished Recreators. Also, I made you say that.
Yes. The moment we stopped reviewing that show, I never looked back at it.
Well, I actually went and finished it off yesterday. And let me tell you, they don't have any self-awareness about how shitty of a character they made Sota. Like, they really don't. And like the way that they finish off that show is by him recreating a much better character who then fixes all of their problems. And then Sota just doesn't redeem himself at all. He's just basically like, I finally caught up to you. He's just so obsessed with having caught up to the friend who he like treated like shit. And it's pretty crappy anime. Yeah. That's all I have to say.
Yes. Everybody knows my thoughts on this show. I hated it. I hated Sota specifically. So
bad. Yeah. Yeah, it's just everything about there were so many good things about it, but like he just brought that show down so far. Anyway, should we get started?
Yeah. Take it away.
All right. So on Sundays, we've got A Centaur's Life, and I think the title guy is back for episode 11.
Do you think you could do it in one breath?
Oh my god, all right. This is early in the morning for this kind of thing. All right, let's see what we can do.
It's noon.
Episode 11. That's a good point. All right. Episode 11. There are as many names of flowers as there are people. That's totally a lie. There are as many types of beauty as there are people, which is probably true if you use in the broad sense.
Nice.
All right, so whatever that means. This episode starts off with Tama's little sisters who are about to go out and play when they let it slip that because Sue, the littlest sister who looks like an angel, is so tiny and cute, people will always want to take her like right away, like basically kidnap her.
This was like one of the only good things in this whole episode.
Yeah, I agree, actually. This is also the first time the show has kind of emphasized that Sue appears to have a tail. I don't remember ever seeing it before.
I think I noticed it, but I think it's a big
maybe
deal.
You did. I don't know. I was just it was a little weird because like Tama, her older sister, doesn't have a tail, even though they have the same parents. But I guess it's just random genetics that
but
led to that.
Sue is she's a half. She's a half angel, half cat.
But isn't Tama also? Don't they have the same parents?
Yeah, but Tama's all angel, and the triplets are pure cat girls. They don't have any angel.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point. So it's just like random genetic differences leading to all these different looking kids.
Yep.
So Tama rightfully goes like, what do you mean people want to take her? And after like a little bit of prodding, like one of the sisters remembers back to a scene where they're playing, like they came across a dog. And so this dog like sees Sue and he like rolls over on his back. This dog also has like 6 legs, and something around that like just looks freaky. I don't know. It just looks wrong when he has
What's
6
the name
legs.
for that?
Well, I mean, I don't know in this world, but like in our world, I mean, like a mutant dog.
Usually they'd be a quadruped. Where are they when they're 6-legged?
A sexiped? I don't know. That just sounds like somebody who watches Hajimete no Gal, though. A sexiped. That's what that sounds like.
Okay, real quick about Hajimete no Gal. What episode am I? I don't know. But it's actually been slowly growing on me. If you can just ignore that one entire scene every single episode where the dude looks at little girls and gets a chubby for it. Okay, I'm up to episode 9. But like the way their relationship is written between the two main characters is actually, I think, decent.
Oh, that's interesting.
I would maybe a little more believable than what Gamers is doing.
Okay.
But Gamers is just like batshit everywhere right now, so
I feel like somebody should make an edit of that show where they just cut out all of the pedo guy scenes and see if it like improves the show
It
drastically.
actually wouldn't be too bad. It's interesting. There's still other sexualized stuff, like the main character almost getting raped like 2 or 3 times by episode 4.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, raped by other women. It's pretty great. It's really written off as comedy, but the pedo guy definitely needs to go. But it would be fairly interesting, I would think.
All right. So anyway, this dog has 6 legs. He like rolls over on his back, and like all the little sisters start like rubbing his tummy, and then like they get like bored of it. So like the little cat girl sisters walk off, and then Sue's behind them, and the dog's like, "No, bitch, you coming with me." He doesn't actually say that, but he like picks her up by the collar and brings her back to his doghouse, and then like he blocks the door so like the sisters can't get to Sue. And so it's really funny. I don't know. Like the dog's name is Yoshi, by the way. So this might be some like Mario commentary. I'm not sure about. Also, the dog has like a bunch of dolls stashed inside his doghouse. Like one of them actually like looks like Sue a little bit. So I think this dog is just like an otaku who wanted to like steal his little waifu and like take her back to his house forever.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, there's also another time when Sue walked off at like a shrine, and the cat girls like found her being hugged by some other girl kind of their age who said like, "I found her, she's my baby sister now." And like her older sister told her to like to give her back, and then like when Tama is hearing about all this in the present, she's like, "Oh, so that's why Kawamoto's sister is always so apologetic towards me."
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
That was the best part of the episode by
and then
far.
it just goes to shit.
Yeah.
Who in the right mind thought what you're going to talk about would be interesting?
I don't know. It's so weird. Like I could see this in a show like Flying Witch, where they talked about like plants and stuff because they're like witches and they have to like brew the plants into things. Basically, what this episode starts going into is like Hime and Shino walking home, and Hime telling her about like what a bunch of different types of grass and weeds are and flowers.
I was honestly impressed, or almost like enthralled at one point while watching this, because I'm like, how long are they going to talk about grass?
It's always greener on the other side.
Oh, Jesus. It's because it's fertilized with shit.
Yeah, exactly. Shino like points out like a bunch of different types of grass, and Hime just keeps naming them. It's like a Sesame Street episode, basically.
It's funny we both wrote that.
Yeah, and Shino is like impressed that they all have their own names. And the next day, Shino goes to kindergarten. Remember, she's in kindergarten. And she plays blocks with her friends, and they have like a pseudo-philosophical discussion about different shaped blocks and how they aren't only a triangle or a circle, because they also have a square side, and so they can be stacked. They don't understand the concept of volumetric shape.
This is way beyond a kindergartner's mind.
They're basically saying that even though plants and humans are defined by a species, they're not all the same, is what this metaphor is supposed to be. They go back outside and continue to just fucking name different types of flowers. I'm starting to get frustrated at this point. Shino tells her friends to pass information on when they become old enough to be their own older sisters or whatever, or like older sisters of their own. The next day they come to school and all the flowers are gone. And the teacher's like, "Well, yeah, we pulled up all the weeds. Sorry." But Shino reassures her friend that like, "Don't worry, the seeds are still in the ground, so they'll flower again next fall." And then in the next scene, Hime literally explains what volumetric shapes are to Shino. She's like, "No, it's like a pyramidal, or it's a triangle pyramid, or it's like a cone or whatever." So it's just like another like lesson in fucking shapes. And anyway, that's the whole first half of the episode, whatever. So if you thought the second half of the episode was going to be better, you were definitely wrong. It starts off with Sue. Remember, this is like the littlest girl. Like, is she even in kindergarten? No, I don't think so.
I don't think she's in school yet.
I don't think she's in school. Maybe preschool, but I don't remember ever seeing that. She's making a bunch of lolly noises while she tries to get her tail through her clothing on her own. One of her like little cat girl Chi-chan sisters comes in and like helps pull the tail through like the hole in her like pants and shirt or whatever. And Sue is like kind of upset because she wanted to dress herself on her own. The sisters decide to give her special tail training. So they do some tail exercises together. And Sue has trouble because her tail is like really short and stubby, and like the Chi-chans are making like figure eights with their tails and circles, and she can't do anything with it. Throughout the whole scene, Sue just continues to either moan like a loli does in like loli porn, or grimace as she tries to move her tail, or literally just say the word meow. Like she literally just says the word meow probably like 15 times in that scene. Tama reassures Sue that like, don't worry, the Chi-chan's tails were short when they were little too. She shows them like some pictures, and she says like, oh, I helped all of them get dressed back then. Don't worry about it. And then one of them asked Tama like, well, why didn't you just dress us in baby clothes instead of adult clothes? It must have been like a lot harder for you to go through 2 layers. And then this gives the show the opportunity to show Sue naked from the waist up, as an example of what it would look like if she was wearing baby clothes. Thank you, show. I so needed this image. With pants and skirts, apparently they explain the cat's tails have to go through 2 holes, have to go through like their underwear and then the outer part of their skirt. So it was harder for Tama to get their tails through. But Tama doesn't actually answer that question right away. She just instead says like, well, it would be really uncomfortable if your tail was in pants. And if they go under your skirt when you lift your tail up, you're just going to reveal everything to the world. She also explains that there's this design for catgirl clothes in this world where it's this little piece of undercloth that goes on the inside of their skirts, where you stick your tail through it, and a little piece of cloth actually moves with your tail, because if it didn't, and you moved your tail to the side and the cloth didn't move with you, your underwear would be showing. And like the little Chi-chans are like, well, I don't care if my underwear shows a little bit, and Tama's like, I care if it shows. So anyway, the girls asked them like, why don't you just use like baby pants that like snap? And again, the show like lets us see what that would look like, using Sue as an example. So she remembers like a time when she tripped and fell because her baby's pants snapped, revealing her bare naked butt, which is kind of funny, but also like, I don't trust this show to be funny. It just seems like more pedophile shit.
Whatever you say, it's just more pedophile shit.
So like, yeah, and then Tama is like, yeah, this is when the Chis say like, we wouldn't mind our underwear showing a little bit, and Tama's like, I don't want your underwear to be visible to the kinds of people who'd want to see it. So that's the show, fourth wall breaking, shaming pedophiles a little bit there. I was like, oh, okay,
looking
show.
Straight into a mirror when that was written. It was
that was like one member of the staff writing to another member of the staff of this show and being like, fuck you, asshole. That's what that was. So Tama shows like Sue a picture of like herself, Tama, when she was a little, to show, like, to put her at ease. And like the other girls are like, why didn't you stay so cute? Like, why are you so like grown up now? It sucks. And then she's like, well, if I stayed cute and little like that, I wouldn't be able to take care of you all. And then to finish off the episode, there's like a set of scenes sparked by the little sisters who are watching like a prettiest person in the world television special. And Sue is convinced that her older sister Tama is the prettiest person. But the Chi-chans think like, oh, there must be someone prettier. So the next day they all like go to school. Also, they make a tower out of the 3 of the like cat girls, and they're also making more like lolly noises the whole time. They notice that their teacher Ryuko is really pretty, but they're like, yeah, but you're not as pretty as our sister. And the teacher's like kind of hurt by that. But she's like, how can I beat their sister? Like, she like lives with them and she's a high school girl. So yeah, they come across like Shino and Hime and friends in the park, and when they greet, one of the Chis just kisses Shino on the cheek, so it looks like those lesbian girls rubbed off from earlier this season. And the Chis decide that Hime is more cute than pretty, but that she'll probably be pretty someday. And they also decide that Sue is pretty for a snake girl, probably, they think. And then one of the Chis tells Shino she's very pretty, but she's still a kid. This is that same member of the staff saying like, she's a kid to the other members of the staff. And then they're also under the impression that Nozomi is just a boy, which I can understand. And so back at home, the girls report that they couldn't find anybody prettier, and Tama tells them that if they all stay good girls, they'll be the prettiest one day too. Yay!
I'll learn more about weeds and grass than I ever wanted to know.
They named so many different weeds. At one point, I was like, should I write all these down just to complain? And I was like, no.
You could at least timed how long they went. It was a couple minutes. I'm just like, stop naming.
Yeah, because there was one full scene of like just naming different grasses, and there was one full scene of naming different flowers, and it was like they were each like at least 2 to 3 minutes
which were
long.
actually weeds. Yeah. Oh, jeez.
This show is just like, I don't even know what to expect from it week to week now, and like it's just been so boring for like 4 episodes now that I'm just like dying watching it at this point. It's just going nowhere fast. So
I agree. It's just straight boredom, and then you just see all this other pedophile stuff, and you keep looking over your shoulder. You're like hoping nobody's watching it over here. But we can do a show that is turning out to, just really picking up right now. But that's Princess Principal.
It is.
Episode 11, Humble Double. This episode was great. I really like where it's going.
I thought it was interesting. I have some concerns, but yes, it was pretty good. Yeah.
So we start off with Dorothy questioning the guy. He's like, why are they going to kill the princess now of all times? The general says, wasn't that the purpose of Operation Changeling all along, was to kill the princess and take her place? And like Dorothy just continues to argue, but it isn't going where. And then, but you can also, if you're paying attention to the people at the table, won't even like look at the girls. They're looking away. It's one of the guys and one of the girls. But the scene finally ends with Ange accepting the mission to assassinate the princess. They're driving back, and Dorothy and Ange have a quick discussion. Dorothy doesn't want to kill Princess, but Ange still wants to go through with it since they are spies. Dorothy like eventually gets like really mad at Ange, and like I think she slams on the brakes or whatever, and she like punches the seat right next to her or something like that. Then we get a random scene of a secret meeting of 42 men are gathered, and the leader tells one of them to contact the wall unit and let them know they have arrived in London. They salute with the right fist over their hearts and say, to a world without barriers. And that's it for now, for a while at least. But we go back to Dorothy and Ange, and they have arrived back at the garage. And Dorothy's like, tells Ange to kind of go ahead. They've come to an acceptance. Ange doesn't really want to kill the princess either, basically. But she tells her to go ahead. She's like, I have some maintenance I need to take care of on the car. Before walking away, Ange says, thank you, which is interesting. Ange then runs to the dorms and uses her sea-ball to get up to the princess's window. She knocks, but somebody else opens it. The person who opens it says she's a friend, and then we hear Princess call her Miss Zelda. Zelda was apparently sent by Control to be Princess's bodyguard just that day. She's also been appointed the new commander, and Ange immediately asked, well, what about Dorothy? And she just stares at her. She then goes to Dorothy's room and finds her and all her stuff missing. But there was also this super quick scene of Dorothy working on the car and somebody standing in the doorway, and Dorothy asks, who are you? And then the scene cuts away. And we don't see Dorothy the rest of this episode. It's just, I don't know, it's just quick and random. And throughout this whole episode, you kind of see the whole group just being taken apart.
My guess is that person in the doorway is probably the former Control leader, L. That would be my guess, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's just a dark outline, but it looks like a man, though. But something's up, so Ange goes on a stroll. She notices there are extra agents about that she was not told of. She runs into the princess and slips her a note so that nobody else sees. And Ange also notes that the bodyguards with her include the Duke of Normandy's people and a Commonwealth spy. She finds just one spy odd. So she can tell something's happening quickly, but can't quite figure out what it is yet. The princess goes back to her rooms, opens her bag. The note falls out, and before she can retrieve it, Zelda grabs it. She unfolds it, but it's just blank. Meanwhile, Ange was watching this through a window with a telescope and notes it's too dangerous to try and contact the princess. Ange meets up with Seven, which is the female that's on the council or whatever, the one that wouldn't look at her, at a train station, and asks what happened to L, She says there were changes at the top and they are led by the military now. That's all. So, ominous, maybe. Ainge returns to the dorms and finds Chisei packing because she has been assigned to a different school, yet one of the other people in the group being taken apart. Ainge is kind of shocked by this, and she leaves her room later and finds Zelda just standing there. Just right across the hall, just leaning against the wall, staring. She walks off, ignoring her, and Zelda asks how 7 is, and that they execute the mission tomorrow, the mission to kill the princess. That causes her to turn around and say she will be the one to carry out the mission. So the Duke of Normandy is meeting with the Queen and asking for her to attend the newly made cathedral when he gets interrupted by a guard. He leaves the room and Gazelle informs him that part of the army has begun gathering in London. He asks about their leader, but she says one hasn't been identified yet. Now we get a scene where Ainge it looks like she's building a bomb. They turn out to be smoke grenades. And thinking about when her and the princess first met, she was actually at that well. Granted, remember, she was the original princess. She was actually at that well because she was going to kill herself. So that's dark and interesting information.
Oh, yeah. Didn't really think about that.
Yeah, but making friends with who we call the princess now changed everything. And we see her end up strapping the bombs to herself under her dress. The next day, Ainge and the princess go shopping together. And they are in like one of the grand, I thought it was a train station, but it's actually turned out to be one like a blimp station because they got blimps in this reality. And it's just really cool and neat. And Ainge notices that they're being watched, but they are intentionally making themselves known because they don't think she will do it. Even Zelda is there watching, and Ainge suddenly grabs the princess's hand and takes off. They make it to a dress shop, and only one of the tails is female, so she goes in. Ainge proposes they ditch the security like they used to. Princess seems delighted by this idea, and they do switch spots. So the princess comes out of the back and takes off running, who is actually Ainge. This is going to be interesting. Try not to get backwards.
Yeah, it's tough.
Then the Ainge lookalike quickly appears and says, "Go after her. She is on to us." The princess lookalike incapacitates one of the bodyguards, and it confuses the rest. They're like, "What? The princess can't do that." But the Ainge lookalike just stands there smiling and takes off herself, and the bodyguards are just totally confused now. They don't get what's going on. The princess lookalike gets cornered and releases her bombs that turn out to be the smoke grenades. The two meet up and reverse their roles again. They run off to one of the airships that's going to Casablanca. And Princess is confused as to why Ainge has been acting like she has since Zelda showed up. Ainge tells her about the orders they were given to assassinate her. She also says her plan all along was to abort Operation Changeling as soon as she met her. Princess doesn't want to leave because she still wants to help the country. She's very set on doing this. Ainge says there is no going back after the scene they just caused. Princess gets angry with her and like shoves her down and runs out, locking Ainge inside the ship. On the other side, the princess says if one of us disappears, it can be her. Princess leaves saying, "Never let me see you again." Ainge actually sheds some tears over this because she's not very emotional, so that was interesting. Quick scene of Chisei meeting with her lord again, and he informs her that he has been some turmoil in the army. If the information he has received is accurate, then her friend is at the center of it, referring to the princess. We cut back to the princess meeting with Zelda and pretending to be Ainge dressed up as the princess. Let me reread that. Pretending to be Ainge dressed up as the princess. She meets with some of the soldiers.
She is the princess who is pretending to be Ainge dressed up as the princess.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really confusing.
It's kind of cool, though. And, you know, they all just like buy it completely. But she meets up with some of the soldiers who are ready to overthrow the queen and make her their new sovereign. And that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, I have a couple observations about this episode. I'll get into my issues with it, but there's a couple interesting things. Like, they finally mentioned Ange's full name, which is Ange Le Carré, which is a very obvious reference to the famous spy novel author John Le Carré. And he's had like several of his books made into movies, so you might be familiar with like The Constant Gardener or Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which got a lot of like Oscars recognition when it came out. So I thought that was a fun nod that they did there. And it was was also a bit strange to me that Beatrice wasn't in this episode at all, but also a welcome surprise.
That was interesting too, because she's always at the princess's side, and the princess was in this episode a lot.
Maybe the princess told Beatrice, like, stay out of the way for this episode, but I don't know. We won't know.
Was she even with her when they met up on the walk?
I don't think so.
I think it was just like 2 other classmates.
I think a lot of this is because there's like one more episode after this one. So they're kind of like rushing into a conclusion arc here, which we could have seen coming, this kind of like conflict between Ange and the princess. But like, it hasn't been set up well because they've spent so much time on these other background episodes that didn't like really fully like hit and like lead into this in a way that felt natural. Like, so that ended up being like the way that this episode ended just doesn't work for me as well as it could have, because like when the princess was pretending to be Ange and she comes back to the other spies, they all act like they trust her that she killed like the actual princess, that she carried out her mission and assassinated the princess. But like up until that point in the episode, they've shown absolutely no trust in Ange whatsoever. They're also all professional spies, so they would all want proof that the deed had actually been done, and there's no proof. It just makes no sense that they would trust Ange now when they haven't for the entire episode.
Not to mention, wouldn't they question why she made that whole scene like she did?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's just so many things that they just like let fly under the radar. And I also think it was like a fairly cheap move to introduce all these new elements and new players to the scene in just like the second to last episode. Like, Zelda would have been a good character for them to have been competing against all along the way. Like,
I agree.
If Zelda had been, well, I mean, Zelda's a Commonwealth spy, but like if Zelda had been competing with like the spy who works for the Duke of Normandy, and then the girls had just been seeing that over the course of the season, that would have made a lot more sense. All of this could have been set up better. That's all I really think. And it just feels like a little bit rushed to me. I'm still interested. Like the princess and Ange are the two best characters of the show, so it's good to see that they're butting heads. It makes sense to me that the princess like wants to follow this dream. Like, it's all she worked her ass off for her entire life so she could pretend to be this princess. Like, so I can see why she wouldn't want to just give it up and run away, like Ange would do. So, yeah, I understand where she's coming from, but I wish everything setting up around it had just, been better planned out, basically.
Yeah, I mean, they have all this like really great material. If they had really planned it out, it would have been just really fantastic. Such a better show.
Yeah. All in all, I still think it's like a pretty decent show, but yeah, it could have been better for sure.
Yeah, you're like, I'm enjoying it, but I can see how this could have been so much better. Like, really fantastic if they would just, I don't know, plan more or something.
Yeah. Well, that being said, you want to move on to the next show?
Yeah, I just miss my Dorothy.
She's still around, at least she was in the episode. She'll be back. Don't worry. She'll be back and in greater numbers. So on Tuesdays, we've got Restaurant to Another World, episode 11, Carpaccio/Curry Bun. So this episode starts off with Akka, the red dragon, who asks Kuro to protect Aletta and the chef of Restaurant Nekia because she's going to be away for a little while. And she says, like, they're two extremely weak beings who need to be taken care of. And then afterwards, we learn that in the continental sea that is between the two continents of the other world, live these like girls called sirens, who are beautiful women who have like wings and bird feet and sing songs to enchant sailors out at sea.
One of them isn't a girl.
Yeah, one of them isn't a girl, which is strange because I think they said that they're all women, but I don't know. A sister siren is trying to convince her younger brother Arius to come with her to set up a new nest on an island that was formerly inhabited by a human named the Chimera Killer. He like reluctantly joins her, and they fly over to this island and they find a cave, which they determine must have been the Chimera Killer's like cave. They find lines scratched out on the wall, and these are the same lines. It's a throwback to the episode where Alphonse Flugel was trapped on this deserted island for 20 years, and he would scratch out like 7 marks at a time to mark the days between going to the restaurant. He also left behind a sack of money and a letter for the next person who got stranded on the island, and Arius is able to read it, and they learn about the restaurant. So They make the island their new nest, and on the day of Saturn, the door appears. And so they enter the restaurant and are told to wait for their menus. And the sister spots a piano, and she like goes to like see what it does, and she hits a note, and then like her and her brother start singing, and the siren song like starts hypnotizing both Aletta and the chef. And then Kuro just like is like, what the hell? And then like runs over and tells them to stop it.
Oh, she runs up to him and just like throws her hands over their mouths and like jerks them backwards.
Oh,
pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. They're also like, the sister is like really excited that like, you can talk to us straight through through our mind. Like, that's amazing. I want to learn how to do that. So they're like, they hit it off. She warns them not to sing again, obviously. So they asked to eat raw fish. Like earlier we saw them just eating like fish on the beach, like full fish, like not like taking their scales off or anything. So
no,
that's
just
what they
plucking
eat.
it straight out of the sea and chomping into it.
The chef recommends his tuna carpaccio. And like, to make a long story short, they really enjoy it, like as everybody does. So
I was surprised they didn't go with sushi.
Yeah, it was like raw fish, Japan, sushi, right? Yeah, but it is a Western restaurant, I guess. So
yeah, that's true. And
sense.
Generally, sushi restaurants is what they specialize in it. So
yeah,
that's not what this restaurant does. So I was like, okay.
So they asked to eat raw fish. Okay, I skipped. All right, I already talked about that. So Alphonse comes into the restaurant. Arius recognizes him by name, but they don't say anything and leave. And they decide to stay on the island. So I don't know why Arius didn't say anything to him, like, thank you. I guess he was just afraid to talk to him for some reason. He kind of like smiles at Alphonse and then just doesn't say anything. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. At the end of the day, though, Kuro sees the chef acting a little strangely, and she's mostly curious about these curry buns which the chef got from his friend Kimura. So Kuro tries them after eating her like normal chicken curry that she gets as like a salary, basically.
I was so glad I made a sandwich before I watched this episode when I got to this part.
Yeah, the curry buns look real good. Aletta also almost burns herself biting into like a hot, freshly fried curry bun. But she also really enjoys it. But Kuro decides like she still prefers her regular chicken curry dish, but the buns are really damn good too. And also, despite the fact that the chef, Aletta, and Kuro are all sitting down to eat together, like they don't really talk. Like, and the scene mostly involves Kuro just kind of monologuing to herself about, you know, eating the curry as like they do, and she drinks a lassi, like a milk drink to wash it down. And I was just like kind of disappointed. It's like, hey, we have like the three sort of main characters of this show all sitting down at a table. Good chance for them to talk about like things that would be interesting. They don't talk. They don't talk at all. I was kind of disappointed. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just focusing on the curry bun. So
I know, but like this show, that's the thing with this show. It only focuses on the food, and like it doesn't get out, like it doesn't talk about Aletta and Kuro and like what they want, or like I don't know. It's not anything more than just about the food, is what I'm saying, basically, which is a little disappointing. Okay. So Aletta tells Kuro to take care on her way home, and Kuro realizes this is kind of ridiculous because she lives alone on the moon and can count the number of beings that could actually do her harm on one hand. But she appreciates like the sentiment from Aletta and wishes her well on her way as well. And that's the end of the episode.
Yay.
Yeah. So I was just like I'm saying, I was just getting like a little bit disillusioned with this show because it's like it's so much like the same formula every episode at this point, and I just want like a little bit more from it, like to enjoy it a little bit more, like a little bit more to sink my teeth into. Ha ha ha.
Oh God, the formula, as in you mean these are our new characters. This is what they're eating.
Exactly. Except, yeah, the second half of this episode, it was not new characters. It was like our main characters, and they just didn't have any story to it. They just like were like, oh, we're going to eat now. And then they eat. Well,
they don't necessarily have to be new. They just be, these are the characters. This is what they're eating this scene. Basically.
Exactly.
Okay. Move on.
Sure.
Tsuredure Children. I never know if I'm saying that right.
That was good. I give you a 10 out of 10 for that one.
Woo! If you look it up on like my anime list, it's like Tsuredure Children.
Yeah, I guess the D, like, so it's sometimes spelled with a D, sometimes spelled with a Z. I guess it's supposed to be pronounced like Tsuredure, like a hard DZ sound. Tsuredure Children. I don't know. But
Okay.
it's a weird word. I don't know.
But regardless, every episode of this show is awesome. So episode 11, tuning. Takano is at band practice and is having trouble taking her eyes off of Sugawara. Her friend asks her, what's up? And if she is in love or something, and it like causes her like to fail a note on her sax, which is kind of funny. She's just like, her friend gets like excited and says, don't you want to know about love and stuff, especially when you see couples like Gota and Ayaka? And then of course in walks Ayaka, and her friend asks her, how she and Gota started dating, and Takano was like, hey, we shouldn't pry. But Hayako was like, oh, I'd be so happy to tell you if just a little, like how they like to gossip, I guess. It's funny. And then when she says she was the one that confessed, Takano like fails another note. So I'll have to get at that. It's good.
She's clearly paying way too much attention to this conversation.
Yeah, her friend's even like, see, you do care. Ayaka asked if Takano is interested in somebody, and her friend says she has been sighing a lot lately, and Ayaka's like, that's what I did. That's what you do when you find out that you have feelings for somebody. And she also says she would find herself following Gota with her eyes and then catch herself thinking about him randomly. And this is all the things Takano is doing about Sugawara.
Yeah.
Ayaka guesses that it might be Sugawara that Takano likes.
Yeah, because she can like sort of see her looking at him down on the soccer field.
Yeah, she keeps glancing out the window and stuff. And she wants to know why would she think that? Takano wants to know why she would think that. And Ayaka and her friend both say they've heard rumors that he likes Takano. And Takano is getting like increasingly embarrassed and looks outside again at Sugawara. And this time they lock eyes and she looks away. It's just neat. All right, so Kana has dumped Chiaki.
Yes! I'm so happy that something I wanted actually happened.
I still don't know what he did calls for a breakup, though.
He kissed her without permission, basically. I think that's, or like not without, like he kissed her in the wrong way, in a shitty way.
I was gonna say the permission was there.
The permission was there, but like she was specifically saying like, I want my first kiss to be special, and then he like just drunkenly slobbered all over her face. He
faked the drunkenness.
Did he fake the drunkenness? I don't even know. Well, if he did, then that's even worse, because then he was in control of what he was doing.
No,
and
he's like,
was not listening to her. Yeah.
No, I faked it. And he's like, no, I'm completely sober when I did that. Yeah.
Oh God, I forgot that. I didn't hear that part. I was even more pissed at him.
Yeah, he totally. Yeah, he's like, oh no, that was an act. I think that's what he says. Yeah, he wasn't drunk at all, but he really wants her back. And he tries to talk to her at school, but like she walks away, and her friend asks if that was really okay to break up with him, and she's having a little bit of regrets, she still kind of likes him, but she's still pissed at what he did. I love this show, man. It's so good. That night, Chiaki says to himself that he will send one more I'm sorry text, and then he will give up. Kana's at her home, says to herself that if he sends one more text, she'll forgive him.
By the way, she's sitting in her bathtub as this goes on.
Yeah, I think she made that decision in her bra and panties, and then she moves to the bathtub.
Gotcha.
So you get the undergarments, and then the final scene, she's just naked. But it kind of adds to the humor, I thought. But Chiaki's kind of having trouble writing his text because he doesn't know if it should be a long one or short one or not. And meanwhile, Kana is just sitting in the tub, staring at her phone, waiting for a text. Chiaki finally settles on, he sends the text, can I call you? Kana gets it. She's like surprised. She's like, oh, but then she drops her phone in the bath. And there's just this tense scene where she's sitting there frozen for like a good 5 seconds and then just freaks out. She jumps out of the tub. She's trying to dry it off. And yes, it's being very fan servicey at this point. But all the
but it's so
parts
funny,
are
though.
blocked.
Like I can't it's
but
so
I'm
funny.
laughing so hard I can't take the fan service even serious at this point.
Yeah.
She's like trying to dry it off real quickly, and then she's like hitting the on button and nothing, and she's like, she finally breaks down and like starts crying. And then it cuts away real quick back to like Chiaki, and he's like No, she's ignoring me. She always has her phone. She even takes it to the bath with her. But then we go back to Kana, and like her mom walks in. She's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" She's like, "My phone. I dropped it in the bath." And her mom takes it from her, and she's like, "All it needs is a good whack," and just like punches it twice before Kana can get it back. But then it's like actually on. She's like, "What? It worked." Then her mom's like, "Yeah, I'm good with electronics." But just then, Chiaki calls, and Kana answers, and she's like, "Chiaki?" And they both are like, "Domo," and then the phone dies in her hands, and Chiaki's like, "She hung up on me." It's hilarious. It's a very funny scene. Still not good as the phone scene from the episode where the guy's little sister got a hold of it and the girlfriend knew. That was the best.
That was like kind of epic. Yeah,
that
might be the best scene from this whole show. I don't know. It's pretty close.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to our next couple, it's Kanda and Takase. We haven't really had too much with them, I don't think.
Yeah, no.
So this is our couple that they're both really in love with each other, but they're too freaking shy to get together.
Yes.
But Kanda has forgotten her pencil leads, and Takase wonders, and he sees this, but he wonders if he offered this to her, would she think he had ulterior motives?
Which is such a weird thing to think. It's like, "Hey, baby, take my pencil lead." It's like come on, calm down.
Yeah, but then Kanda is also wondering if she asked to borrow Takase's pencil leads over one of her girlfriends, would he think she had ulterior motives? And they both have this inner monologue at the exact same time that says, well, I mean, I do have ulterior motives.
Yeah, exactly.
Kanda ends up asking Yuki if she can borrow hers, but she has a different size and says she could use this to get close to Takase. She's like, "What? No, not here." During the exam, she runs out and Takase like tosses her some lead. And she thanks him afterwards, and the two are like talking, but then like Yuki's in the back looking at the two, and she's wondering to herself, why are these two not dating yet? So this is your favorite couple, right? The next ones?
Yeah, probably.
So we got our delinquent blonde Ryoko is going over her notes before an exam, and she's basically just freaking out about it. She remembers an argument she had with her mom about going to college and regrets sleeping through like all her classes, not until so late now, finally trying to be good. Two other girls see her trying really hard, and one of them says to the other girl, you should use this as an example, but she, to get the test done. But then she like quickly interrupts her, and she's like, oh no, she's just doing it for a man. The other girl like had no idea, and she's like, oh yeah, she's dating the student council president. It blows her mind. And then in the back of the classroom, crazy blonde guy, Shinichi, says to Masafumi that his chick seems to be struggling up there. He replies it's all part of her practice, and whatnot. But Shinichi can see that Masafumi is very worried about her. He's back there, his like hands are shaky. He's like, I hope she passes. The teacher hands out the test, and Ryoko remembers when Masafumi asked if he could kiss her when she finishes. She's like, get that shit out of my head. I gotta focus. Mm-hmm. She actually knocks her eraser off her desk and then has like this internal conflict about being a delinquent who would raise their hand to get their eraser back. But yeah, but the girl who was surprised that she was going out with the student council president earlier raises her hand and gets the teacher to pick it up. And then like the teacher congratulates her on working so hard. And the girl's like, I'm rooting for you. Mm-hmm. And like, she's so touched, but it cuts away. The camera does. But she's so touched. I guess she like starts to cry, and they're like, are you okay? Do you need to go to the nurse's office? And like the other lazy girl's like, I want to go to the nurse's office and sleep. And of course, Ryoko's just like freak out. She's like, no, I'm fine. Nobody worry about me. It's funny.
I thought that was interesting with the like the eraser etiquette, where it was like expected that the teacher would pick it up, because I guess like if the students are seen like handing stuff back and forth between each other during a test, that would be bad. Yeah. So it's like the teacher's responsibility to like pick stuff up, which is kind of funny. As a teacher, I'd be kind of annoyed, but I guess I understand where that's coming from. Oh, the only thing I forgot to mention is like when the in that first scene when the girls are looking out the window at like Sugawara, they have like their brass instruments, and it just makes me think of Hibike Euphonium. Like I can't not think of Hibike Euphonium when I see two girls standing next to like a window playing brass instruments. It's just like so ingrained into my head from that show. But
good thing I've never seen it then.
It's a good show. Well, the first season is good. The second season, I don't know. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, those are my basic thoughts. Yeah, this show still continues to be fun. That's good.
Yep. Wednesdays. Sakura Quest, episode 24, The Eternal Obelisk. So the girls are kind of bummed out about the absorption, and we also find out it might take about 2 years for it to fully happen or even come to fruition. But to help cheer everybody up, Yoshino must go with they're going to go along. Yoshino says they're going to go along with their plans so that Monoyama traditions don't disappear, even if the town gets absorbed. At the office, some supplies for the festival have arrived, and as they are checking them out, Kadota arrives and seems to be most bummed, basically, of everybody else about this. Yoshino tries to cheer him up, and it doesn't succeed. At practice for the play, Kadota takes a break with Chitose, and they talk about the absorption. Chitose is fine with it because Manoyama has always survived, and they need to do their part so that future generations will remember. Kadota still doesn't seem so sure about it, even after that little speech. And if you haven't figured it out yet, every scene is about the absorption in everybody's opinions.
Including Sandal-san, who I quote will say, "I like absorbent things. It helps when they're quilted."
Yeah.
Just thought I'd throw that in there. Such a random line.
He's so random. So Taka, Mizawa, and Noge are at Angelica's talking about how they will be the low ones on the totem pole on government issues when they become absorbed. They also bring up again about the town's traditions will probably be discarded and forgotten. Out of nowhere, Amiyama shows up with some information he would like to share with Yoshino. We immediately cut away to another scene that explains what he was there for. Apparently, he would like he's there warning them that the people they worked with last time for that moving mountains thing on episode 6, 7, something like that.
Something like that,
Yeah. They want a local idol group to be added to the play. So this would involve casting changes and the addition of 5 more girls. He, of course, wants the idol to play the dragon girl and would also take Ruby's place in singing the dragon song.
Boo.
Yeah, his bargain is that he has the primetime slot on the TV network and would be willing to let them use up the entire slot for a live broadcast of the Mizuchi Festival, what they're trying to throw. But it turns out what Amiyama was actually doing was informing them about this deal ahead of time before Kume shows up and offers them the deal. He warns them because he felt responsible for what happened when they filmed an episode of Moving Mountains in their town. They want to refuse the deal because it would just be another repeat of last time. Still, a primetime TV spot would be a lot of helping people know about the festival. The girls come up with compromises before Kume shows up the next day, and during their meeting, Kadoto's there, and Yoshino says, we have some suggestions. But before Kume can even respond to that, Kadoto says, there's no room for negotiating, and immediately just refuses the deal flat out. End of that deal.
It's just saying, we need to protect our traditions. We need to do this our way.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do that.
The girls decide to keep uploading videos daily about the festival leading up to it. And it also seems a lot of people in the village are also doing the same. In this scene, we also find out that Maki's little brother got into a music college in Tomikura, majoring in percussion. At the end of the scene, Yoshino gets a call from her agency and leaves the room to take the call. Switch over to Kadota is at home watching TV when his wife comes into the room. He tells her there has to be something that he can do, that only he can do. Short little scene, we move on again. And then we really see the town really becoming active with the festival upcoming in the form of giving donations and stuff like that. The girls talk a little bit about what they're going to do after the festival. And this kind of prompts Maki to ask Yoshino what the call from her agency was about. And they just wanted to discuss about her contract ending soon. Nothing really serious right so far. And Yoshino is still really not sure what she wants to do, but is considering all her options. The next day, the girls are cleaning up the original shrine with Sandal-san and Doku. Doku's got a little power washer. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Riri finds some names carved into one of the stones, and one of the names is the foreign engineer that was brought over to help build Sakura Pond. Sandal-san is happy to find proof of his roots in the town, because that engineer was his like great-great-grandfather or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Later in the evening, the girls are setting some stuff up on the stage when Monkey requests Yoshino's help. She tricks her into like the little cave for the play and locks her in just long enough for like a bunch of people to gather and throw her a surprise birthday party. It was cute. Yeah, the following day, they start the festival with carrying the shrine through the town. Kadota inwardly promises himself he will not let the town disappear. And then they close out the episode with random shots of like the festival proceeding and going through the town, or so you think, until they pull a Rage of Bahamut on you and have an after credits scene. Kadota comes across that stone earlier with the names on it and says, "We might be able to use this." He says he might be able to make sister cities with Manoyama and Sandal-san's hometown. Getting a sister city might get them some more leverage in the absorption, and Kadota tells Sandal-san to get him in touch with his hometown mayor, who turns out to be currently on a trip in Japan viewing cherry blossoms and is currently in Kanazawa. Kadota immediately drives away to bring the mayor to Manoyama to see the cherry blossoms and experience the festival. Doko has a good line at the end that he says, "Same old idiot. That idiot that once destroyed the festival is now the idiot that is trying to keep it alive."
Yeah.
That was the end of it.
Yeah, it was a good setup for the finale, which I'm sure will be a whole bunch of fun. I also liked there was like some short montage scenes near the end of this episode as they're setting up for the festival where like a lot of characters from the previous episodes in the series are like coming back to the town now. Like I remember the one where like those 3 women who visited the town to like meet with like the singles committee basically. Yep. So that woman is back and I was like, oh, that's really funny. And like her and the guy she actually liked like bump into the other guy who was like hitting on her, who was like a crossing guard or something at this point. It was really funny. So there's little moments like that coming back. Yeah, when you thought it was closing it out, when they were carrying the shrine through, they were doing all kinds of shots and stuff. Yeah. So really cool. that'll be a fun. I can't wait to watch that final episode. I'm really excited for that actually. Yeah, I need to recommend it to a lot more people. I think it's very under the radar for most people. Yeah. And I think it's partially its own fault. I think like it didn't start off like as strong as it could have, but it did. The second half of the season I think is much stronger than the first. But also it's just like the material of the show is like a little bit boring. Like it's about like a backwater Japanese town and like the trials and tribulations it goes through. But like, so if you're not interested in that, you're not going to be interested in the show. I'm surprised I am interested in that. I think they present it in a very entertaining manner. So. They do, for sure. Like, I think I'm just invested in all the girls at this point. So no matter what they do, I want to see what happens. True. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do Thursdays and we can talk about gamers. Bcom's favorite misunderstandings. Oh my god. Eat up here. Sorry. Oh, Jesus. We'll get to that. I thought that was hilarious. But that was weird. It's right at the beginning. We'll get right to it. Episode 10, Gamers and Next Stage. We open with Amano asking Aguri to join them at the Gamers meetup. Aguri doesn't want to join at first, but Amano has invited Karen also, and Aguri does feel a little conflicted about it, but still doesn't say she will go. In a last-ditch effort, Amano offers his pie to her instead of being himself, and she finally agrees, and then that's when he has his little inner monologue. Yeah, he's like thinking to himself about Aguri, like, eat up, dear, like, eat your pie. I was just like, oh my god, you're such a creepy bastard. He's just such a creep. I don't know, it's funny, but he's such a creep. So Amano's with like Chiaki and Konoha, and he's like congratulating Chiaki on being confessed to by Urahara because he still thinks Urahara likes Chiaki. But Konoha is like her voice of reason here, and she's like, you should turn him down since he already has a girlfriend. He's a piece of shit. So that makes me really like Konoha a lot. Yeah, that was a good solid take on the whole situation. Yeah. But Chiaki's like, but I don't have a good excuse to turn him down. So like Amano calls, he says, I'm going to call the professional rejector. And he calls Karen. And Karen's like, oh yeah, you tell him. Karen's like, are you going to use it for your own personal use? And he's like, yes, I am. And she's like, no, I'm not going to tell you. That's like how she like barked it out. She's like, I will not tell you how to turn people down. And it's really funny because it's just messing with Karen so bad on the other end of the phone.
And like it's so much that Amano thinks she's in like some kind of trouble, and there's like this guy with a hood up, and he jogs by and he's doing like boxing punches, and he's like, did some jogger come by and punch you or something? It's so stupid. And she's like, no, I'm okay. But then he's like, no, I'll come and help. What kind of boyfriend would I be if I didn't come and help my beloved girlfriend? And then like she's like so touched by it, she recovers and she ends the phone call by saying, I love you, and then hangs up.
That was a roller coaster of a phone call for her.
Yes. She went from thinking she's going to be rejected to knowing that she's actually beloved. So yeah, she was losing it. But Amano like sits down, and like he sits down with like his elbows on his knees and like this concerned look on his face, and the other two are like, what happened? And then he just sits there and he's like, why is my girlfriend so adorable? And then Konoha just like hits him like, what do you mean? They then go over like a couple of ways Konoha would reject people, and this is when Amano decides to get everybody together at the game meetup and talk things out. That's his big plan. Also, this was a scene for Amano to say to Konoha that she's cute.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Yeah, he says, how do you reject people? You're so cute. You must get confessed to all the time. Ugh.
Yeah.
But anyways, at the meeting next day, Amano immediately chickens out and says something about running full speed to go buy a game. So this is such a throwaway scene. So they like give their advice to Amano on getting the game, and he also talks about why he loves this series, and it's kind of metaphor for Chiaki on like why, I don't know, it's there, but it's kind of a stretch at the same time. It's weird.
I agree. It was like a loose metaphor.
Yeah. Chiaki's back home lying on her floor with games like spread around her, and she's using her PZ4 as a pillow, which
it looked comfortable though. I was like, yeah. You know what would be even more comfortable? The PS4 Pro, or sorry, the PZ4 Pro. Got even more Plus cushion.
But then like her sister walks in and she's like, what are you doing? And she says she was looking for an old game, and it's the old game that Amano was talking about from the last episode, from the last scene.
Yeah, Star Ocean, I think is what they were talking about. Yeah.
He's gonna go get Star Ocean 8, and she has like the first one, so she's looking at that. Also, there's a lot of fan service shots of Konoha here. She's like one part, she's like bending over, looking at her, talking to her sister, so you see down her shirt, and then there's a scene where she sits on the bed, and it's just like all leg shots, and you're expecting to get a crotch shot almost.
It's very similar to Eromanga Sensei, because she dresses a lot like how Sagiri does, where mostly what you see her wearing is her hoodie and then just all legs besides that. So it's that same like lolicon type of like fan service shot, like it's that kind of thing. It's not as bad as Eromanga Sensei, but it's like it's evocative of the same thing. That's what I would say.
Well, Konoha has the zipper down a lot farther. That's for sure.
That's true. That's true. She does seem a bit older to me than 12. So like, yeah, I don't know, but still, it just seems inappropriate.
What the scene devolves into is basically Konoha giving Chiaki some shit about liking Amano, and she needs to make her own decision about it already. Urahara finds his chance to finally go and support Chiaki in her quest to get Amano. But of course, when he arrives, Chiaki thinks he is there to ask her out, and Urahara thinks because of the way she's acting is because she isn't sure about her feelings for Amano. Half right. Karen shows up at the very end of the scene and like wants to ask the two of them for their opinion on something. The reason Aguri was away is because her friend, she thought she was meeting up with her friend and a bunch of other friends for just a bite to eat. But when she gets there, it's her friend and two douchebags. She sits down and they start talking some crap about her being involved in a game meetup group, saying things like, they're probably porky nerds and they're probably masturbating to Aguri, and it like pisses her off. So she gets up and leaves, but her friend chases after her. She like wants to know what the big deal is. She defends the game club basically, and after she has walked away, she tries calling Uehara, but he isn't picking up.
I loved how Aguri like stood her ground in that scene. She's like, yeah, well, they may be porky nerds, but I have more fun talking with them than I've ever had talking with you. And like her friend just doesn't get it because she's like so in that mindset of like popular teenager that she has no idea. But like, and like Aguri like really stands her ground until like she walks away, like you said, and then like she gets really upset and then tries to call Tasuku to
she
cheer her up.
kneels down and like tries to call him, and she's like, "Oh, he isn't answering."
Yeah.
So this is a strange scene. There's a lot of I don't understand what happened, but Karen, Chiaki, and Urahara are walking home together. When Karen tells them why she wanted their opinions, she starts off by talking about how being with Amano makes her so happy, but there are times when games are more important, like today, and that he goes and eats with Guri all the time. Also worries her, but Urahara is like, I don't think meeting with Guri is a problem, though. He says she thinks of him as like an annoying younger brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Then Chiaki gives a little speech and how that's just how Amano is, his games are that important to him. And then this is really where I started getting lost, because I don't know why Urahara then stops Karen from continuing going on about talking about how much she likes Amano.
Oh, yeah, to not hurt Chiaki's feelings.
Yeah, and I said, I guess
Chiaki
not to hurt Chiaki's
him,
feelings. But
actually, does he know that Chiaki likes him?
Yeah, because remember, he's supporting Chiaki.
Yeah, he is supporting Chiaki, so he wanted Karen to stop talking about it because he noticed that Chiaki was feeling uncomfortable, I think. Yeah. Yeah,
but as they're walking together, it's like Karen, Urahara, and then Chiaki with Urahara in the middle. But he stops them by like putting his hands over their shoulders, like, "Hey, of course, Aguri is across the street," and she sees him and she's like, "Of course you're cheating," and she runs away, and like the other three chase after her, yelling at her. It was a misunderstanding, and basically Karen and Chiaki say like really bad things, but Urahara, he's like, "Come on."
Mm-hmm.
At the very end, Aguri's like panicking and messages Amano, and next scene they finally caught up with her and Aguri, and everything has been explained, and they laugh it off. But then like Amano shows up, and they're surprised because they expect him to be so dedicated to gaming that he wouldn't come to her rescue, but he does. And he's like, "Oh, of course I would be here. I thought you broke up with Urahara," and was like seriously depressed. Karen is surprised, that he put the game aside for Aguri, and Amano and Aguri have this like really cute little scene with the other three looking on like, what the fuck is going on between you two?
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like, that was one of the first times in this show that I really felt chemistry between two characters, was that scene between Amano and Aguri. Because I think they're both like the same kind of crazy in a interesting way. Like they're both like completely like paranoid and crazy, and like they just seem like a good match for each other. Honestly.
Yeah, they connect very well. Yes.
Yeah. I would say that in earlier in that scene when like they catch up to Aguri, and like she basically sums up this whole show in one line where she goes, "It was a misunderstanding, tee-hee," and then she like sticks her little cat tongue out. And I was like, "God damn it, Aguri, you're so cute." It's like, but it's like that's the whole show. It's like, oh, it was a misunderstanding, hee. That's the whole show right there. And yeah, and also fuck Tasuku. He continues to be such an idiot.
Urahara.
Yeah, he's such an idiot.
Yeah,
he's just like playing these girls. I swear to God.
Yeah, it was all about Karen at first, and then he suddenly's all for Chiaki.
Yeah.
So I guess he doesn't care what happens to Karen.
But he's like,
poor
never
broken heart.
For Aguri. Like, go talk to your own girlfriend for once. Like, sort things out. And they kind of did after the life game a little bit, but like they still haven't talked a lot since then. It's been stupid.
It shows them apart so much. It's like they are not a couple. Like they're supposed to fail or something.
Yeah.
Even though they had a cute little how they got together. Like that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, but that's it.
Well,
Fridays.
Let's move on. Ready?
I'm ready.
For Fridays and Rage Bahamut Virgin Soul, episode 22, Which Way is the Wind Blowing?
West.
So, yeah. This episode starts with Bacchus's carriage flying over Abos, and Hamsa saying that they haven't been back here since 10 years prior with the final battle against Bahamut. And Favreau is listening to this, and he briefly thinks about what happened at that battle and Amara and everything. So Cherios and his lead scientists are overseeing this crackling green energy of this like super weapon that they're overlooking, and has almost reached its power limit, at which point it may blow away like half the continent, they say. And Cherios says like, we're going to go ahead with our plan to release the seal, and then we'll go from there. And then the weapon makes a sound like the growl of a dragon. And that's where I was starting to think, this has something to do with Bahamut.
Yep, the same thing here.
Yeah. So armies have gathered at the hill that Jean told them to gather at last episode, and she appears out of the clouds and addresses like the chanting humans and like demon soldiers who were there. She says her son was taken from her and victory will be theirs, and this is for all of the people who have suffered at Charios' hands. So Anate, the capital, is evacuating. And the Onyx Guard says that the defense must focus on the prison island. Like nothing else matters. That just can't allow anyone to get near the weapon Dromos. But he also coughs up some blood once the orders are issued. Because he's clearly at his limit with that like soul-feeding stone that he has implanted in his chest like the other Onyx soldiers. Alisand is at the head of like his army. And he's talking to one of the soldiers, or no, he's not talking. Two of the other soldiers are saying like many of the people who were loyal to Jean left to join her when she made her announcement. And Alisand wonders like, where is Dias? Where is he gone? And he's very conflicted still about what he did to Elle. Like he's extremely racked with guilt about it. So Kaiser and Dias head off Jean's force to try and stop her from doing it. So from like attacking the city. And Kaiser tells her Alisand acted on his own to kill Elle. He was not ordered by Charios, and he asks her to halt that march and not spill like just more needless blood. But Jean refuses, saying that no matter his actions, like the king targeted Elle's life all along, and he's going to pay for what he's done. So Jean starts the battle off by firing off this like massive beam of angelic light from her staff that explodes into like the castle's defenses, and then like the battle commences. And I think you said that you thought like the action didn't look so good in this scene, and I would kind of agree.
Yeah, I think it got rough in parts, which sucks because it's been really good so far.
Exactly. I think it was just like didn't live up to the rest of the show in this scene. It was just okay. It was just average. Just like arrows flying back and forth between the armies, stuff like that. Meanwhile, the Box's carriage is flying through the fog towards Abos, and they spot this green beam coming out of the center of this fog, and Nina says he's here, referring to Charios. Like she can sense that he's here. So Charios like raises his sickly left arm. He's inside the room with the weapon. He's going to try and activate the weapon. However, he's interrupted because Nina and Favreau have infiltrated the base. Nina is like freaking serious, and she's using a whip, and like she also like backhands a soldier, and she gets through like several guys and like gets to Charios basically. Charios unsheathes his sword and stands firm, and the weapon lets out a dragon growl again, and Favreau says, so it was Bahamut after all. And he asks, what the hell are you guys up to? But Nina doesn't care. If they're going to take more lives, she just wants to stop them. So she attacks Charios, and she's able to actually disarm him, because he's pretty weakened, I think, from the bracelet on his arm and trying to activate the weapon. She picks up his sword and stops herself before cutting off his arm, and Charios says to her, go on, just do it. And she cocks the sword back and brings it down, but she just misses his hand on purpose. She can't bring herself to hurt him still. And so she's in tears, realizing that she's just unable to stop the one she loves. And Favreau asks Charios straight up, like, what are you planning to do after resurrecting Bahamut? And the scientist claims that Charios is trying to do the opposite of resurrecting Bahamut. And Favreau orders him to explain before he kills Charios. So then we get some backstory on this whole thing. So the scientist says the plan is for Charios to slay Bahamut. And 10 years earlier, there was a young steward at the castle who is now the head of the Onyx Guard soldiers, who we saw earlier in this episode. He discovered a book in the demon Martinet's chambers. This is the demon from the first season, which held information concerning the destructive powers of Bahamut, and also the details of like the Dromos weapon that they discovered that the gods had sealed away. They confirmed that Bahamut would inevitably return, and so they decided they needed to put a leader in power, Charios, who would have like the mental fortitude to do whatever it took to slay Bahamut. So Favreau asks Charios if he's truly looking to die just to slay Bahamut, and he responds that this was his destiny. Like ever since Bahamut killed Charios' mother, he's felt this way, that he needed to do this.
Destiny.
He tells Nina to stay out of his way, and he approaches the weapon and raises his hand. Favreau asks him one last question. He asks, like, why were you surprised to see Nina here? Did the guy in the black armor tell you she died or something? And Favreau goes on to like posit that Charios didn't order Nina's death, nor did he order Elle's death, since picking a fight with the gods is the last thing he'd want if he was trying to slay Bahamut. But like the weapon begins to overflow with energy. It creates this like black miasma around it. And then Charios tells them to leave if they don't want to die. There's still a little bit of time. And Charios and those scientists walk through this opened portal. And then Nina and Favreau just need to like get the hell out of there because everything starts like exploding behind them. And they run and they barely like outrun the explosion and reach Bacchus's carriage. But Nina gets separated for a second. Like it looks like she might not make it, but she jumps for it and just barely grabs Favreau's hand and gets aboard. All of a sudden, Charios and the scientists are aboard the bridge of an airship, and they actually have like a little fleet of airships there. The airships look pretty cool. They look like dragons to themselves. But this huge beam of light is emerging from the ground from like where the green beam was before. It's a yellow in color now. And you hear like the sound of a dragon, and then you see like these beams of light come out and like destroy several of the airships. And Charios is like, just get the fleet in formation because we're taking him to the capital. And by him, he means Bahamut, who has been resurrected, and he is now in some sort of like golden lit glory. He looks like golden, stage Bahamut, basically, or whatever.
Yeah, see, this is where the animation came back.
Yeah, for sure. And so they mean to take him to the capital so they can destroy him with the super weapon, basically. Which to me seems like a pretty dangerous plan. Like, resurrect the most dangerous thing in the universe to like drag it across the continent to like the capital and destroy it. I mean, it's the only way they can destroy it, but yeah.
I mean, if he's going to come back regardless, why not make it under your own schedule, right?
Yes, that's true. And so they've resurrected him like way earlier than he was supposed to come back in order to kill him.
I don't think it was I only think it was like a couple years or like 10 years or something like that.
Maybe. I don't remember from the first series how often Bahamut shows up, though. I don't remember. I wonder, though, what Bahamut's resurrection means for Amara. Because where we left off with Amara, she was sort of inside Bahamut, sealing him away. So they just released the seal on Bahamut. So what does that mean for her? Is she still alive in some sense? Like, I hope that Favreau and her somehow get some closure, even if it's like Favreau talking with her spirit somehow. Like, I don't care. I just want some fucking closure. That's all I want.
No, I agree with you. And I think that would be really awesome.
Yeah. So again, basically Charios's motivation is, Bahamut killed my mother. So he enslaves all these demons and destroys like humanity's relationship with the gods. So like mankind can become powerful enough to resurrect his mother's killer in order to slay it once and for all. In that case, I'd say like Jean is kind of completely justified in killing him over what he did, what he indirectly did to Elle. Because like if his reasons are like this asshole dragon killed my mother, so I'm going to take it out. Like then like he deserves to get payback as well. Like he still hasn't really redeemed himself in any way that I see. Yeah, like, I don't think he's innocent now, obviously.
And it's setting it up that when he fires his weapon, it's probably going to kill him anyways.
Probably, yes.
They keep bringing that up. They're like, you see what it did to your eye. What's it going to do to you next time?
Yeah.
Been brought up multiple times, so.
Yep.
That's all I got to say. It'll be interesting.
What do we got? Like 2 more episodes of that, or 1 more? Two more episodes. Okay.
25 episodes. Is that how many?
It's either 24 or 25. 24.
Probably
so
24.
Two more episodes. Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to the next show, which is somehow more gory and gruesome than Rage of Bahamut. So Made in Abyss, episode 11, Nanachi. So it's all about that little rabbit girl, right? So this episode starts off by showing the entire mouth-to-mouth scene from the end of last episode again. And I actually had read Leo's notes on this episode before I started, and I was just like, yeah, this is really bad. Because so like the only difference we get in this scene is that it starts off with Nanachi's point of view, and she like briefly remembers another young girl who she had met in a brief flashback, and that's like what prompts her to go help Reg. But literally, like, the first 3 minutes and 30 seconds of this episode are all a repeat besides that, followed by the OP. So, like, the new content for this episode literally only starts 5 minutes into the episode, which is really bad. Like, come on, we didn't need to see all that shit again. There's no reason for it.
That's exactly what I wrote.
Yeah. So Reg notes that Nanachi looks like a small child, and Reg is like hesitant to trust her, and he has no other options, so he has to. Nanachi cuts Riko's tourniquet loose to allow the poison to flow through the rest of Riko's body, and only then they'll just get rid of it. Apparently that's the right way to treat it. Nanachi administers medicine her friend made to Riko and gives it to Riko anally. Of course, Reg is like looking on at this and blushes. But after what Riko's done to him in the past, I feel like this makes them even anyway. So
I didn't think about that.
Nanachi like removes bone fragments from Riko's arm, like basically surgically removing stuff, and then notes that there's also been quite a bit of nerve damage to her arm. So I'll keep that in mind. Let's see if Riko's arm like will ever recover. She sutures Riko's wound closed once she's finished removing the debris inside. So Nanachi tells Reg that she needs him to go fetch a bunch of things to help Riko, because like basically at this point she's only delayed Riko's death. So if he wants to save her, he's gonna have to go find these things. He also wonders like, hey, why didn't you cut Riko's arm off at the elbow? You could have gotten through the bone there. And she realizes, wait, were you just following her instructions? So apparently Riko instructed him to cut her arm off past the elbow because she knew she would still be able to do more cave raiding stuff as long as she had her, like a little bit of her forearm. I guess it would have made a big difference cave raiding wise. So Reg finally introduces himself and Riko, but Nanachi says like she already knows their names since she's been listening to everything they've said since they entered her hunting grounds. And she was the strange presence that Reg had noticed when he was like entering. Yeah. And so Reg is angry that like she didn't help them during the orbed piercer's attack, and she only helped afterwards because she pitied Reg, like crying over Riko's body. And Reg's about to get really upset, but hears a noise from the other room. And Nanachi's like, oh, yeah, that's just like the person I live with or whatever. It's like she introduces him to her cute little Mitty. And what this thing is, it's like a blob of like flesh that does not look human, really. And Nanachi says, like, this is what happens when you survive the ascent from the 6th layer of the abyss. All of your personality and intellect vanish, and Mitty is also a hollow. So then Reg asks, so like, what, Nanachi, aren't you a hollow? Why don't you look like that? And she says there's a reason, and that he shouldn't get his hopes up, but she doesn't elaborate any further on why she doesn't look like that. She also says that cave raiders usually kill their friends and take their belongings if they turn into a hollow, so it's probably better to do what Nanachi did and say that like, oh, that person just died, rather than tell them that they're like keeping them alive as a hollow. Nanachi gives Riko a list of items to go to collect, and she tells Reg that he only has like 12 hours before Riko is going to die. And so Reg runs off thinking of something Nanachi said, that she said, like, I guess you can't see it then, can you? I don't really know what that was referring to, but he just decides to focus on the task at hand. So meanwhile, back in the hut, Nanachi notices the white whistle around Riko's neck and thinks back to a scene from like years ago, because it looks like she's much younger, when like one of the other white whistles who was mentioned in like a previous episode as like one of the like white whistles to watch out for on their way down, is like petting like Nanachi's head and thanking her for the new cartridge for one of his experiments. We don't really know what that means yet.
So you see his whistle though, and it's kind of cool because it's like two bony hands intertwined with each other. That's his whistle.
Yeah, that guy seems kind of evil.
Yeah, that was like, okay.
So Reg proceeds to catch the items and collect the items he needs, like including like a demon fish, this giant hammerbeak's eggs, some like yellow shining grass, and then the final item is this shroom bear, which is a funny name for an animal. It's like a little like walking like I don't know, it's like a big fat guinea pig that has like mushrooms growing out of it. So he collects all these things and goes back to the hut. And when he arrives, he opens the door and Nanachi is stripping Riko naked because we needed more child nudity in the show. And apparently Riko was soaked in like bloody piss. So Nanachi decided to clean her up.
And they keep bringing up piss after this.
Yeah, they just keep talking about piss. Nanachi explains that the water mushrooms that grow on the shroom bear have a symbiotic relationship with the animal where they release nutrients to the little bear whenever it looks like it needs them. So Nanachi plants several of these mushrooms on Riko's arm, and they'll basically like heal her arm a bit.
But they're going to hurt like hell coming out.
Exactly. They're going to hurt like hell when they get ripped out, but it's worth... they heal like the skin and they heal like the wound as well. So Reg asks like what Nanachi's going to use like the rest of the items he gathered for. And she's like, oh, that's just for my dinner. So he's like, I could have made it back not on time, you asshole. But she's like, well, you know, if I'd collapsed and didn't have anything to eat, I wouldn't be able to see Riko either. So... Nanachi tells Reg though that Riko will likely survive at this point, and he grabs her saying and like tries to hug her, and then he's like, wow, you really are fluffy. And then he goes outside to wash Riko's clothes, and he notices like these flowers all around him. They're these like eternal fortune flowers as well as gravestones, and it seems like he's visualizing an area of the abyss that's much lower, possibly the place where Liza was supposed to have been buried. And in this flower bed, in like a big mound, he sees the Blade Reaper sticking out of the ground. He's like, how did that get here? I thought we lost it somewhere else. And he's holding this blue pendant necklace in his hands. But then Nanachi appears behind him. He's like, asks like, hey, what are you doing? And then he snaps back to it and realizes he's not in the place that he was visualizing. It was just a vision. And she tells him like, hey, why were you staring so intently at Riko's pee-stained pants? Which is apparently what he was doing when he was visualizing whatever, the pendant. So Reg wonders like, what the hell did I just see? And the voice that he heard in his vision seemed to be coming from one of his own memories of someone mourning for Liza. And he's like, did I bury Liza? But Ozen said nobody was buried. I'm so confused. What happened? So inside, while Riko is asleep, the hollow Midi crawls up on her body. And it starts making these agonized noises as it looks down at Riko sleeping, clearly remembering her from somewhere. So yeah, and that's the end of the episode.
Clearly remembering her?
I would say clearly recognizing something in Riko. I would say either this hollow knows Liza,
or is Liza,
or has met Riko or something. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, but interesting. And that the design for that freaking thing is so creepy. Like it's got like a split open triangle shaped mouth, and like the eyes
it's supposed
are all
to be unsettling,
which
is, I mean, just good character design, but
yeah, for sure it works. Yeah. So I don't know. I think this is one of the more interesting episodes in a while because we're learning about Nanachi, who's a new character, and she's very capable. So that was nice to see.
Okay. And you said you think the final episode is supposed to be an hour long?
Oh yeah, I think it is.
So episode 12 is only 30 minutes though. The regular 22, 24.
Yeah.
So is it going to have 13 episodes?
Yeah, I think it has 13. Yeah. So what is that? Made in Abyss. Yes, 13. So 13 will be an hour-long episode. That's interesting.
They still got a bit to go through.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they're definitely not going to finish this. Like, I could see them doing a second season. I could also see them finishing off with like a go read the manga ending. We'll have to wait and see how it goes.
Yeah.
So, let's move on.
You got anything else?
Not really. Just that Riko pissed herself. Just thought we want to know that again.
For like the third time in this show.
Yeah.
So 18th, episode 11, the Thorncross Association. The scene opens with a guy preaching on the streets about how the women who have succumbed to the Sleeping Beauty syndrome have now been freed and allowed to take their true forms in their dreams. Kasumi is walking by and stops to listen. When he does, a man appears behind him and says, "I'm surprised somebody's taking that guy seriously." When Katsumi turns around, the guy has already walked away. Katsumi bursts through the doors in the dream world to a grouchy Haruto who wants to know why he is the only one who won't wake up. Katsumi says his discovery about Urina will be the key to solving Haruto's mystery and also possibly the mystery of Lily. Haruto and Katsumi get in an argument and Katsumi leaves. Haruto tries to follow him, but he comes out into an asteroid and a giant serpent swallows him, and I was made me think of Beetlejuice. You know, when they go out the doors and it's like a sand world and the worms are going through it?
Yeah.
Okay, this scene followed by a quick scene and a quick scene. Back in the real world, Katsumi goes to a church that houses the Thorncross Association. Inside, he meets Aya.
Yeah, they like pronounce this wrong in the show too. Like, at least for how they spell it out, it's weird. Also, but this Aya guy, he looks exactly well, he doesn't look exactly like him, but he looks a lot like Char Aznable from like Mobile Suit Gundam. He has that like weird helmet on, and then like the weird like big military uniform type thing. It's strange character design.
Yeah, but Aya is a representative of the association. Back in the dream world, Haruto is visited by Lily. Lily knows why Haruto won't wake up, and it's because she's keeping him asleep. Back to the real world, the association believes those with the syndrome have been blessed by Eve in the dream world. Back to the dream world, Lily explains she is keeping Haruto there because he might be the only one who can stop Eve from waking up. If Eve wakes up, everyone will die. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Back to the real world, Aya explains what they worship is the goddess Eve, who sleeps in the center of the dream world. He also says the world they know is the world that Eve is dreaming about. He continues to explain that after getting kicked out of Eden for eating an apple from a tree, Eve was distraught enough to close off her heart and fall into a deep sleep. The dreams in her sleep brought this world to being. What they are now is a temporary form, and the dream world is where reality lies. Awakening to their dream selves is the salvation the association seeks. They believe the witches are the ones most blessed. The current world is the world of suffering, and the witches created worlds for themselves, and in that way, it is true Eden. Katsumi recalls some of the encounters with the witches' worlds and calls bullshit on it being true Eden in the worlds they created. Aya goes on to show that the sleeping beauties that have awoken had something happen to them by an evil one, and the show cuts to a screenshot of Haruto. We go back to Haruto and Lily, who is explaining that all the witches he has woken up so far were linchpins that opened up the path to Eve's door. Haruto then recalls all the witches he has saved. Lily says since the 10 witches that were linchpins have been removed, Eve's door has opened, and Lily wants Haruto to go with her there and kill Eve. Haruto asks why don't you just kill her, and she says she can't, and that you saw it. The world will end. Haruto points out that doesn't answer my question. Back to the real world again. Aya wants Katsumi to stop the evil one in the real world, in the dream world, from waking up the witches. Cue a montage of Haruto waking up each of the 10 witches, which I usually hate flashbacks, but I kind of liked this one.
Yeah.
I needed to remember all these people.
Yeah, it's been a long season.
Yeah. After the montage, Aya says Eve is angered by the evil one's actions of waking up the witches. She's trying to wake up because of her anger. They wish Eve would wake from her love, not anger. If she wakes up out of love, she might forgive this world and save it. And by saving it, their current reality will change to the world of Sleeping Beauty. Katsumi leaves and passes the mystery man from earlier, who says, "Don't believe them. The guy he hates. The guy says he hates them, and Katsumi should stay away." And you think that guy's a Haruto or something?
Yeah, that guy's eyes look to me so similar to Haruto's eyes that I was like, this guy is either related to Haruto somehow or is Haruto, but I don't know because he's asleep in the dream world. So I don't know what that's
funny
about.
Thing, when I wrote that first scene when he first ran into him, I wrote him down as evil Haruto.
Exactly, yeah. He seems like evil Haruto. That's a good way to describe it.
I've seen the next episode. It's not Haruto. Yeah.
Interesting.
Next episode's awesome, and I'm going to tell you right now, just open my anime list and open the characters page. Everybody's in it.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So Katsumi calls one of the witches because he has a question for her about Haruto. He actually wants to ask all the witches. She speaks for all the other witches, also saying they have a lot to say. Apparently, all the witches have been keeping in touch. We get a final scene of Haruto standing in front of a door with Lucy. He opens the door and we leave with a shot of a red-haired beauty standing before a mic, and she giggles.
And she must be Eve, I guess. Yeah.
Nope.
Oh, well, she appears to be Eve at the end.
And
of this
everything
episode.
I've said about the next episode is not a spoiler. They're just they're right there, front and center.
So on the one hand, I like that this episode brought together like all of the prior episodes into like some somewhat cohesive narrative where it like all makes sense why their world is the way it is. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, like I know you said you liked that flashback, but like there was a large part of this episode that reused a lot of old animation from the prior episodes as they were doing like the recaps, and I was just like, it's a lot. I didn't. Well,
I really forgave it for that too because the animation's so different in every episode, and it was kind of cool revisiting it.
It was really cool in that sense to just see like, man, look at all the cool animation styles they did over the course of the series. Like that was kind of cool. I agree with that actually. I also agreed with like for the greater meta narrative, like I just agreed with Katsumi, who says in this episode at one point, I don't really get it, but it seems pretty scary. I was like, that pretty much sums up the show. And also the ED for this episode was freaking hilarious too. It was just like some like chanting like Japanese and just like against like a Euro beat or something. It was really funny. I just really enjoyed that. I really enjoy a lot of the music in this show, honestly. It's really good.
Yep.
So but still like this show is probably like the most ambitious show made this entire season. And it may not have hit every episode, but like it's always interesting and it's always thought-provoking. And that's more than I can say for most of the other shows that have been airing. So, yeah.
Yeah, another one I think that's kind of flown under the radar also. That's turning out to be really good.
Yeah. So
I honestly didn't have I didn't know what to expect from it when I started this.
Yeah, I had no idea. And we just like watched the first couple episodes and we're like, you know what? This is pretty interesting. Let's add it to our watch list. And it was definitely like one of the best decisions we made early on. So, yeah.
Agreed.
Speaking of not as good decisions.
I didn't even put notes for this one.
Yeah, there's nothing to take notes on. There really is not. Saturday, Action Heroine Cheer Fruits. Episode 10, So Long, Hopeless Warriors. So yeah, the show's starting to get a little bit samey at this point. And also do some more of the same fan service that I was originally defending. But at this point, it's like, no, I'm not defending it anymore. So the episode begins with the Cheer Fruits, who have finally placed at number 10 in their local like idol rating show for their region, I think. And Midorikawa, who's like the green-haired one, she jumps at this opportunity to sell a bunch of merch. So she offers like a deal on all of their like remaining goods, and like there's like a bunch of like otaku that are like buying the stuff from her. She's like, as long as you buy this special collaboration shrine charm, like you get 30% off everything else. Yeah. Masaki kind of scolds her a little bit for just like going ahead with the sale without permission for everybody else, but she's honestly in charge of the merch, so why would she not be able to do this? But I guess Masaki just didn't want her going over her head. But it was the right thing to do. They sold a lot of stuff. After this, we transition to another completely all unnecessary but quick scene of Midorikawa in the bath, who is wondering like what new merchandise items she should buy to sell for the next round of merchandise. There's just no reason that she had to be in the bath, and they like show her naked, and it's like there's no reason. There's just no reason for this. And then they immediately
completely random shot. You're right.
Yeah. They immediately transition to the dressing room where like the girls are in like their bras again, but that was also pretty quick. But again, I'm like not defending it anymore because they've done this same scene several times now, so there's obviously a reason that they're doing it. Masaki announces that Mako Kamisu from the group Gingers is coming to visit them. And basically everybody freaks out at this news because she's like the number one idol. Like she's like the Kamidayo idol. The girls wonder if she's going to complain to them about like the plagiarism issue that came up earlier in the season. But Masaki puts their fears to rest because the actual reason she's coming is that now that the Cheer Fruits have made the top 10, they are going to be interviewed by the number one, who is Mako. So the girls all greet Mako when she arrives, and An and Mako kind of both observe about each other that they're totally different from their onstage personas. Like Mako has like a lower stage voice, and her normal voice is much higher, and An is just like a nervous wreck around her hero right now, which is way different from how she is on stage. And like Mako tells him like, hey, don't worry about that legal complaint stuff, because with so many divisions, it's like bound to happen. And like she whispers to them like, by the way, when I started, I copied ultra conductive linear man, and people got really mad at me too. So Mikan and An are like really won over by all this, and they all take a group picture, except An is like passed out on the ground in the foreground of the picture, which is funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
As Mako tours their stage, like it makes her think about all the improvements she wants to make to her new show, which is called like Ultra Celestial Kamidayo RX. And she praises the Hino Nectar show, like saying that like the explosions and the crane work were all really appealing, and that Muramura's dedication to being an ultra serious villain was really impressive. Which like Roko gets like a blush on her face when she hears this, because she's standing next to Muramura and she realizes like, no, that's just who Muramura is. She's not really acting.
Yeah.
So the girls watch in amazement as like Mako like starts to recite a bunch of the lines from their latest show, because she watched it and she loved it. And she's like saying how great each of the characters is. But she accidentally changes one of the lines, switching "I'll fight" to like "everyone fight together" or something like that. And she says like, oh, she did that because like she always thinks to include the audience, because they're all fighting together with the audience against the villains in these shows. And that gives Mikan something to think about for her writing. So they all see Mako off, and An tries to ask for her autograph, but Mako says like, I don't think I should give you one because we're rivals and we're competing for the top idol group. So that's her reasoning. She's nice about it though. It's not like a mean thing. But after she leaves, the girls are all kind of discouraged because they just met the number one idol and they just saw her ability, and they're all like, we'll never be as good as her. So they're all pretty depressed actually. And so when they go to hold their next performance, they're all still like really thrown off. Like Mikan and An's heads are still in the clouds, and they mess up the performance. They say the wrong lines. They forget to react to like attacks on stage, and like they end up destroying like the lemon tree as part of their set dressing, and they get a really poor reaction from the audience. Like,
yeah, even whoever narrates, she even like totally botched one of her lines.
Oh yeah, Aoyama, yeah, she messed up a line too, and she's normally like perfect. She's like the one who's in charge all the time. So Muramura, of all people, scolds them like afterwards, reminding them that their number one concern isn't Mako, but like engaging the audience who they're actually performing for. So Aoyama tells Muramura that like that's the first time you've ever said something good, which I thought was really funny. And so the girls seem resigned to the fact that they'll never be able to beat Mako still, though. Like, and I thought things got a bit overly dramatic here, where the girls like all go home depressed and wondering if they'll even continue the group. Like, they're that discouraged. But Roko and Hatsuri, like, they go to like visit Misaki, but they don't actually end up like talking to her. They just both go to like outside her house because they're both really worried about her and have a bad feeling. And Misaki apparently is thinking to herself of memories she has of screwing things up when she gets too involved. I thought she had gotten past that point already, because she, like, when there was an emergency during the fireworks performance, she got on stage and got involved and everything went well. So it kind of felt like a repeat of her own issues for her to still lack self-confidence, but maybe it's not that easy to get over it. They watched the next Idol TV special, and they've dropped down to number 25 from number 10 because of their bad performance. And the next day, though, Midorikawa is carrying this like huge sack on her shoulders, and she passes by a few kids in town who are fans of Cheerfruits, and they're excited. They're like, hey, you're in 25th place. I'm so excited. And she's like, don't be excited about that. But then they kind of get like a little angry at her. Like, one of the boys like slaps her on the butt. Like, he's a little boy, so he can get away with it. And he's just like, just cheer up, Green, or whatever. And like, it's fine. And so they run off. And then so she realizes that like people are still cheering for them. And so the girls are gathering in the club room, and everyone is depressed. Midorikawa is the last one to arrive, and she interrupts Masaki, who was about to give a speech, and she tells him, like, hey, it doesn't matter what place we're in. A heroine who gives up halfway is useless. And she tells them, like, I want to show you something. And she takes them all to the shopping district of Hanano and shows them that, like, all the businesses, like, are supporting the Cheerfruits. They all have, like, Cheerfruits billboards and signage and stuff. And, like, a bunch of the adults, like, talk to them and tell them, like, how much they're supporting them and to cheer up because it's all going to get better. And so this, like, sort of re-energizes the girls and, like, refocuses them on what their real job is. And so Midorikawa finally shows them what she's had in this huge sack, and it's their new costumes. They have like new like beige looking costumes that are kind of cute. And Midorikawa has like this really cheesy line where they all hold hands in a circle, and like this like a big lemon like appears in front of them on the ground. They're like, Cheerfruits makes you think of lemon, and we're all one lemon. And I'm just like, what the fuck? It's just like a really cheesy line.
It was weird.
Yeah, it was really weird. It turns out that the other reason Midorikawa was trying so hard to motivate them all was because she already bought a lot of merchandise that had the new costume on it. So she's like, I can't let this go to waste. I need to convince them to keep going with the group and wear the new costumes.
Where the hell did she get this money?
I don't know. Maybe from selling the old merch the other day, I guess. But all's well that ends well, and they all decide to redouble their efforts going forward. And so, yeah, I don't know. It was like an average episode, I guess. There were some funny things in there, but like, yeah, the show's getting a little bit samey. Like I said, Misaki going through the same problems she's been going through the whole time, and the girls like still just being like not sure of themselves even after that great like fireworks performance which vaulted them up to number 10. But I guess meeting their idol, I guess that has an effect on people, you know, like seeing like what the true greatness is close up can be really hard to see. So yeah.
So out of locks, I'll say both yours kind of suck.
Yeah, Centaur's Life and Action Heroine. Yeah, you're right. I did not hit. I would say I did better with Action Heroine than I did with The Centaur's Life, though. But still, that's not saying much, because The Centaur's Life went so downhill. Man, we should have watched Recreators. That's what I'm saying.
No.
We would have had more to talk about, I'll tell you that much. I will say, like, there are so many things in Recreators that I loved. Like, there's so many parts of that show that I loved, but then there's so many parts that are so bad. It's just so uneven. Like, I just love the whole ideas of like the creators being able to talk with their creations, and like the creations like hating their creators for the things that they made them do in their stories. And then like the creators like having to explain like it's not all about you. It's like about like the reader, and like I'm going to keep putting you in these situations even though they're harmful to you because I know you can handle it because I wrote you that way. And like, so I mean, there's so many interesting ideas, but they just got so caught up in like the fucking exposition bullshit and just Sota's character having to be a thing. It just was so depressing. I don't know. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, everybody just knows I hated it regardless. Yeah, exactly. I think the concept, when I first read that concept, really excited about that show. Mm-hmm. But I hate Sota so much.
He's such a bad character. Yeah.
And, anything else you want to add?
No, that's it.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube to get updates on new podcasts or videos. And follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and other for updates as well. See you, everybody.
See you next week.